Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I got a full house here. We got comedian Dave Reinitz, Jim Earl, Emmy Award-winning writer for The Daily Show, and comedian Rob Placona's here. We got a full house. Look at that. Hi, fellas.
Hello.
Hey, Jimmy.
All right.
Thanks for unpacking that.
Okay, no problem. Let's get right to the big news. The big news is Jeff Sessions talked to a Russian. We're still pretending like Russia is the communist Red Scare enemy. We're still doing that. I don't know if you know, but Barack Obama made fun of Mitt Romney for doing that shit in 2012. We're still doing it. Okay, so here is, they said he lied. The problem, again, it's not the thing he did, but the lying, right? It's the cover-up. So here he is with answering former comedian and now Senator Al Franken's question about him talking with Russia.
Is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign? What will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
Very well.
So it turns out he did have conversations with the Russians, and so they're saying, well, look, he lied to Congress during his confirmation, and now everybody wants him to resign because he lied. But they're really saying it's because he talked to Russia before the election. Now, what if he talked to somebody from, let's say, Italy? Would we care that much? Or Australia? Or the UK? Or, I don't know, Sweden? Would we care? It's Russia. That's why we care, right? It's not Saudi Arabia. It's not Syria. It's Russia. That's why we care, right? That's why it matters, right? Mm-hmm. Because people lie to Congress all the time in high positions. And by the way, the fact that Russian ambassador reached out to talk to Jeff Sessions is said by the former United States ambassador to Russia that's not uncommon.
Well, it's certainly not a crime, and it's not even a violation of the Logan
Act.
You have to prove intent, and you have to prove what they were talking about,
right,
for it to be a violation of the Logan Act.
Now he did lie there. But other people have lied to Congress very recently, very powerful high-ups in the government. Like, well, here's James Clapper, the head of the NSA, lying to the Congress.
Last summer, the NSA director was at a conference, and he was asked a question about the NSA surveillance of Americans. He replied, and I quote here, "The story that we have millions or hundreds of millions of dossiers on people is completely false." The reason I'm asking the question is, having served on the committee now for a dozen years, I don't really know what a dossier is in this context. So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
Now, we know because of the fine work of whistleblower Edward Snowden, that they do, that the government's collecting every email, text message, phone record. They're doing that. And by the way, Barack Obama made it okay for the CIA to have access to that data, your data. The CIA, the war criminal, fucking democratically elected government toppling, torturing before breakfast organization now has, because of Barack Obama, has access to all of your private information that the NSA catches up or grabs or collects because Barack Obama did that. Now, he's just asked, do you do that? Do you guys collect not all of it, any? Watch, here comes James Clapper's, watch how he scratches the top of his head, which is a tell. When he scratches the top of his head, that's a tell that he's lying.
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently.
Boy, he can't scratch his head back. That thing that's unconstitutional, that we're doing, we're kind of we're not supposed to be doing. It's against no, we're not doing it. Not wittingly. I mean, if we're doing something that big, we're not aware that we're doing it. That's a,
He looks a lot like Donald Pleasance in The Great Escape, lying to James Garner about being blind. That's a reference no one will get.
I don't get it, but here we go.
But it's a good one.
Perhaps collect, but not wittingly.
Okay, so that was a lie. That was a big fat lie by a guy currently employed by the United States people, and he was lying to the people about what they're doing. Hey, you're employed by the government. We're the people's representative. We're going to ask you, what are you doing in the people's name? And then he lied to them. And everybody said, it's okay. Everybody was like, it's all right. He can lie. I swear to God, that's what happened. Everybody was like, it's all right.
And he's not a very good liar, we should maybe mention here. I mean, I have a feeling any of us will beat this dude in poker. I think any of us would win.
Yeah. So now here is former security chief Mukasey from the Bush administration. He went on with Erin Burnett. She's out front. And listen to what she's immediately reveals. She doesn't really know what the hell she's talking about. And but she's sure something wrong happened, and he kind of straightens her out.
Remain independent, but not every contact is. But every contact is not improper.
Correct.
I have not examined these in detail. It sounded from reading that like he's trying to give himself cover in case something improper did happen. I mean, this isn't a full-throated defense. This is every contact may not be improper, but I haven't looked at these.
That's what any person would say in his position. He hasn't looked at them, nor should he waste his time looking at them.
So should he recuse himself and do a special
No.
prosecutor, as Daryl Issa is asking for?
Special prosecutor of what? Where's the crime? We haven't even named a crime, let alone suggested that charges are going to
So
be
you're saying
brought.
until Congress comes out and says, here's the proof that we now see that there was connections between the Trump campaign and Russians known to U.S. intelligence, and then, and only then you would say, because that would be possibly a criminal act, right?
No, it wouldn't.
Again, I'm still wondering also. I'm with Mukasey on this. Exactly what? Again, we talked the Logan Act. No, I don't think so. She's certainly not clued in onto what the reality of the situation is. She's running full steam on propaganda. And
if they had regular contact talking about working together
The only
beat Hillary
statute I
Clinton?
know that conceivably violates is the Logan Act, which hasn't been prosecuted since 1793.
Right.
And when they get to Jimmy Carter, Jesse
Which prohibits
Jackson,
you from talking
and
about
Dennis,
future policy. But I'm talking about
with-
collusion, or it would be great if you could find things on Hillary Clinton, those sorts of conversations. That would be treason, right?
What?
No?
No.
You're fine with that?
It's not a question of being fine. I'm not fine with it.
she has no idea what she's even talking about.
People don't know what treason is.
She doesn't have no idea. Now, if we found out that Jeff Sessions or someone from the Trump campaign talked to somebody from Russia about Hillary Clinton, that would be treason, right? He's like, what are you talking about?
Treason is defined in the Constitution, Section 3, Article 3, aiding or giving comfort to the enemy, meaning the enemy.
In a war.
We're at war with. We're not at war with
We're not
Russia.
at war. We're not at war with Russia. In fact, Russia's supposed to be our friend.
And you have to prove intent. Again.
And up until the point where we didn't want them to be our friend anymore politically, they weren't. They were our friend.
I thought it was interesting they dragged Jimmy Carter into this.
Well, he was going to talk about the Logan Act because people were talking about how the Reagan violated the Logan Act. Nobody prosecuted. There's been a bunch of non-prosecuted Logan Act things, is what he's referring to, and she cut him off.
Well, there's Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon. Now that was treason.
Yes.
With the Paris peace talks and LBJ.
Yeah. So what the point is that this happens a lot. No one's ever been prosecuted for it.
Completely treasonous.
So yes, but here is. So let's listen.
There's a difference between treason and what I'm fine with or not. And saying you ought to get stuff on Hillary Clinton, believe it or not, is not a crime, even if you're saying it to the Russians.
Yeah, that's not a crime. Wow, look at that. That went right to a beach scene. And so that's what they say over at CNN. Here's a guy named Russ Lewis. He says the left has gone off the deep end. Basic logic and fact-based assertions no longer matter. We are doomed to lose to Trump over and over again because basic uptake of information on the left has been completely obliterated. I agree with this. Asking for facts or sourcing for any assertion is now met with accusations of being in Putin's pocket. The detachment from reality that the Democratic voter has experienced is much akin to the separation from reality that the right has been existing in for several decades now. Nothing will improve as a result. We will likely get more Republican takeover and more Trump because no one on the left is willing to address the issues anymore. It is far easier to yell, Russia. So I agree with that assessment. I'm going to throw it over to my panel. What do you think of that assessment, panel?
Yeah, it's just look over here, look over here, look over here.
I agree 100% with that. It's easier to find a foreign boogeyman than to look inward, look in the mirror as to why the Democrats lost every state house and both houses of Congress. And you know, Putin did not nominate Hillary Clinton and her past for Democratic candidate for president. The U.S. did.
I mean, they're running Trump's playbook. They're running the authoritarian playbook of let's create an enemy.
Let's
blame that person.
Yes, you're exactly right. And I love just to show you how this works. Right underneath, he put Obama's director of national intelligence, James Clapper, repeatedly lied to Congress about the unconstitutional NSA spying on Americans, something infinitely more egregious than what Sessions did. But Democrats and the media looked the other way, which they did. And this just proves what he's talking about. Right underneath, this guy named Don Graham says, yeah, right, change the subject. That's about the only option you have left. He's not changing the subject. This is the same subject. The subject is the hysteria over Russia, pretending that they're the Red Scare. Remember, with the Red Scares, the communists are going to come take over. They're going to infiltrate, and then they're going to take over. Are we really worried about Russia infiltrating with the communist ideology in America, and taking over? Because that used to be what we were afraid of. That's why we had those House Un-American activities. They're everywhere. They're in unions. They're in teacher. That's how they decimated the unions.
Remember in January 2015 when Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill brought up the image of the hammer and sickle to smear Bernie Sanders?
I don't remember that.
Well, she did. That was her warning to Democrats: do not choose this man because Republicans will paint him as a Soviet stooge because he went to
because he's for
Soviet
free
Russia.
College.
He went to
And he likes borscht.
because he went to Soviet Russia once. It's like
Well, that's why, getting back to this post, I appreciate the fact that left is in quotes, because I refuse to accept that the entire left is doing a McCarthy impression. In fact, I hope it's a small sect of the quote-unquote left.
It's not. I have that same wish. But I do not think that is what's happening. I think that it's the majority of the people I know on the left. It's a sliver of people. It's us. It's the true progressives. Even Bernie Sanders we're going to show in a second. By the way, if having connections, it wasn't too long ago that having connections with Russia was just normal. It was how we did things because they're not communists anymore.
Well, Claire McCaskill just said that she never spoke to any Russians ever, but she did in 2013. She spoke with the Russian ambassador about the Iranian deal.
Well, I just want to remind people from this headline from the frickin' New York Times. This is from the frickin' New York Times. Cash flowed to the Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal. And underneath it says a Uranium One sign. Uranium One, the name of the corporation that Russia bought, so they could dominate the world's uranium supply. Signs that points to a 35,000 acre ranch owned by John Christensen near the town of Gillette, Wyoming. Uranium One has the mining rights to Mr. Christensen's property. So that's a Russian company mining uranium in the United States. And the deal had to go through Putin, and Russian banks connected with the Kremlin. And guess who facilitated the whole goddamn thing? Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Since uranium is considered a strategic asset with implications for national security, the deal had to be approved by a committee composed of representatives from a number of United States government agencies. Among the agencies that eventually signed off was the State Department, then headed by Mr. Clinton's wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton, signed off on this. Uranium One's chairman used his family's foundation to make 4 donations totaling $2.3 million to the Clinton Foundation. Those contributions never disclosed. Despite an agreement, can you imagine if Trump got $2.3 million to sell fucking uranium to a fucking Russian company and didn't disclose it? They'd have a tank going through that Pennsylvania Avenue right now. Despite an agreement Mrs. Clinton had struck with the Obama White House to publicly identify all donors, they still didn't. Other people with ties to the company made donations as well to the Clinton Foundation. And shortly after the Russians announced their intention to acquire a majority stake in Uranium One, Mr. Clinton received $500,000 for a Moscow speech from a Russian investment bank with links to the Kremlin that was promoting Uranium One stock. But all of a sudden, if you have a conversation with the Russians, somehow you're a communist again. You were back in the 50s. Beyond mines in Kazakhstan that are among the most lucrative in the world, the sale of that Uranium One, which was facilitated by Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, the sale gave the Russians control of 1/5 of all uranium production capacity in the United States. In the United States, Russia has control. Here's what Michael Tracy thinks about. So I just want to remind people that it wasn't too long ago that was hunky-dory for the former president and the State Department, head of the state, our Secretary of State, to be doing deals with the frickin' Russians over nuclear energy. So all of a sudden, everybody's crazy, and I wonder what happened. Oh, Hillary Clinton is the biggest loser in the history of the world and lost to the most unpopular guy to ever run for president. She lost, and so they can't look themselves in the mirror, and that's why we're living in the left's version of Benghazi. That's what I'm calling it. Here's what Michael Tracy said. He's the new reporter with the Young Turks. He's got a blue check by his name. I don't have a blue check. You know why? Because I don't need Twitter to tell me who I am. That's right. I have Facebook for that. He said, here's Michael Tracy, his initial thought on the session's Russian news, and I'll read it to you because it's a little tiny. He starts off by saying it's plausible that Sessions intended to convey in his Senate testimony that he did not communicate with Russia officials in his capacity as a Trump campaign surrogate. So what he's saying is, when he answered that question, he was saying, I didn't talk to them as a surrogate from the Trump campaign, which we just watched the video. I don't think that's what he was saying. So I'll disagree with Michael Tracy on that one, but it's a plausible. I think that if they tried to prosecute him on that he could certainly use that as deniability. No, I meant as a Trump surrogate, I didn't talk to them. I talked to a Russian guy, but not as a Trump surrogate. I mean, that would be his plausible deniability, and I think that they're not going to prosecute him on this because they don't prosecute anybody on this. Number 2, he says Sessions may have committed a criminally actionable offense by making false statements in sworn testimony. At the very least, this should make it untenable for him to oversee any investigation into Trump's reported Russia ties. 3, the federal perjury statute requires that an offender willfully make a false sworn statement, which is a high standard, and so we don't think he's good. Okay. So 4, the furor into Trump's purported Russia ties, this is number 4, still looks to be riddled with huge amounts of ridiculous bluster, groundless assertion, and inflammatory accusation, notwithstanding the political ineptitude of Michael Flynn and now potentially Sessions. Okay, do we get all that, what all that meant? He's saying that this is still all bluster without any proof. Number 5, he said, that said, given the full-scale investigation is likely inevitable at this point, Sessions ought to not oversee it. Number 6, almost no one who has been critical or skeptical of the flimsy Trump/Russia story has on principle opposed investigation into the matter. So people like me who are skeptical of this whole thing, we don't oppose an investigation into it. The worry has always been that any investigation is bound to be a Russia baiting shit show, and that remains true. That is what's happening. So that's the problem. Number 7, there's only 10 of these. There's number 7. Even Michael McFaul, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia, I talked about this earlier, and a highly public proponent of the most incendiary version of the Trump colluded with Russia theory. So this guy, Michael Fall, former ambassador to Russia, and he's really pushing the Trump-Russia connection thing as loud as anybody. That guy has stated that it would not have been unusual for the Russian ambassador to seek a meeting with Sessions. That guy. But that's not being reported. Number 8, Democrats and some Republicans' increasingly frenzied obsession with this issue remains deranged. That's what Michael Tracy's saying. I'm agreeing with this. Number 9, elements of the deep state are clearly continuing to leak material on Trump and his administration. That wouldn't excuse Sessions' potentially perjurious conduct, but it is noteworthy context. And number 10, there's a long list of reasons why Jeff Sessions is legitimately bad, and there is. He is bad. And quote, may have spoken with the Russian ambassador, end quote, is not on that list.
Yeah.
Where's
the outrage over this guy being a virulent racist for most of his career?
How about that? So, I mean, I remember Trent Lott got in trouble. He had to step down as leader just because he complimented a guy who was a racist. And now the guy is a racist and he gets to be, okay. So I'm going to be, so this again is very alarming if you're an actual honest to goodness lefty who cares about consistency and actually making things better. I think this is a huge distraction.
I think it's alarming that he lied under oath, and he definitely lied. There's no reason to lie unless you're trying to cover up something embarrassing like conflicts of interest, business interests in Russia, which I don't doubt for a second that Trump has some embarrassing, illegal ties to Russian businesses and other businesses around the world, and that should be uncovered in a bipartisan investigation, public.
There's a guilt tell in the fact that senators talk to ambassadors all the time from different countries. And for him to have just said, yeah, we talked about a couple of things, what's the big deal? But he didn't say that. He said, no, I didn't even talk to him.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so he's guilty of something.
So he did, I agree, but Michael Tracy thinks that there is plausible deniability. I think he could pull that off.
Sure.
Because there is a high standard, like you said, and like he says, there's such a high standard. So, yeah, I think he lied.
Well,
will he be able to get convicted for it and in trouble because of it? I don't think so.
Well, he said as a surrogate, he did not.
Right.
But he also said personally he did not.
Right.
So that's one lie and one...
What's the definition? Which depends on what your definition of is. So it's going to be one of those word parsings, and I think it'll be... So anyway, that's what Michael Tracy says. Here's Bernie Sanders. Michael Tracy also tweeted this. He says, Sanders had successfully avoided falling into the same bleeding Russia hysteria that has made Dems look so ridiculous. What happened? Here he is. There's Bernie. Today I will be asking the Senate Intelligence Committee to thoroughly investigate if Russia coordinated with Trump's campaign. We need investigation. Michael Flynn leaving the administration isn't enough to clear up. My guess is that, Bernie's a go-along, get-along guy right now. I mean, you hear the stupid shit he was saying. He was trying to convince progressives that Hillary Clinton was the opposite of all the shit he said for fucking a year.
Well, it's like the Democrats don't know how to forward an agenda. So this is all they're doing is trying to attack and stop Trump, and this is what the hot button is. The hot button is Russia.
You are exactly right. The Democrats have, you're right, Dave, the Democrats have no agenda. I've been saying this on the other videos. I've been saying this on the show for a couple of weeks now, and it's clear that they don't have an agenda. It's clear that their agenda is to keep doing what they've always done. They just voted to keep corporate money and lobbying money coming into the DNC. Something Barack Obama, who's a toady of Wall Street, wouldn't even do. He said no to that money. Now the current Democrats are going to fight back Trump's corruption with more corporatism. That's what lost. You guys are goddamn wiped out. And it's so hard to start a third party. I mean, we might have a shit country for a while because the Democrats, they're not letting go, the corporate Democrats. So anyway, that's what I think happened with Bernie. Bernie's just getting his mind right. He doesn't want to be Ralph Nader, and he wants to play nice with the Democrats. He wants to still be a leader, stuff like that. That's what this is. Bernie needs to be stronger, and he's not. And
Bernie had the platform. Like at the end of those tweets, can't you just write free education for everyone, $15 minimum wage? Just a couple little things. Keep it in.
That's what I've been saying. That's the Democrats don't have a vision. You want to excite people about your party, or do you still want to? They're still doing the scare people about Trump. They're still doing it. It lost once already. and it will lose again. You have to beat something with something. You can't beat Trump with nothing. $15 minimum wage. Stop the wars. Invest that money back at home. Free college, single-payer health care. That's a winning platform. Every time they put minimum wage on the ballot, it is a winner. Overwhelming. How about you don't do single payer? How about just public option? You let people buy into Medicare. How about that as your platform? The Democrats have no platform. You know what their platform is? We're going to have more transparency inside the DNC. Who gives a fuck? So that's it. That's our Russia wrap up. Now you know the rest of the story, and now go get scared by the mainstream news media as they pass around at the top of their lungs conjecture, unsubstantiated facts, and propaganda. Hey, the next live Jimmy Dore show is March 4th. That's a Saturday. Get your tickets right below. The next one after that is March 20th. The shows sell out really fast, so get your tickets right now. Links right there.